been walking this path of feminine power for well over 13 years, initiated by what I call the goddess herself. And I went from being a criminal prosecutor to what I do now, which is an international soul embodiment guide and relationship coach, because I was led onto the path of soul. And soul is the feminine. The feminine is the soul, which is our divinity in form, which is our divinity embodied, our divinity on this planet, which is exactly what we've been told that we are not, which is exactly what we've been afraid to do because of the persecution, which is exactly what we're told is evil or sinful. And in today's Soul Sovereignty and Sexuality podcast, I'm going to dive into this a little bit more about what this feminine power is, because it's very misunderstood. And I see a lot of women struggling with what the true feminine is. Now, certainly, I have my own perspective from my own embodied path. I've spent years researching ancient civilizations, mythology, and religious history to understand the suppression of the feminine for the past 3,000 to 5,000 years across the world. And my perspective of the feminine is based on this research. My perspective of the feminine is based on channeled information that I receive and my own past life remembrance. I've had many past life memories of being an oracle of Delphi, for example, of being a priestess in ancient Egypt, many past life memories of being persecuted and killed for my truth. Now, whether you believe in past lives or not is not the point of this podcast. You can refer to other episodes that I've done on past lives if you would like more information about that. Because one of the things I do when I work with people is help you access those past lives and enter your body so you can shift out of old ways of being and align to deeper levels of your own soul's truth. Now, one of the reasons I'm talking about feminine power today is because many of you know that I recently led a divine feminine power initiation or intensive retreat in Greece. I'm still in Greece now. And we went to, over 12 days, sacred sites related to the goddess, where these ancient temples have been uncovered from anywhere between 500 BC to 4,000 BC, 2,000 to 4,000 BC, depending on the location. Many civilizations revered what is called an earth mother goddess. Now, there's a difference in worship and revering. When we talk about the goddess in today's society, we often have this misnomer, this misunderstanding that we're talking about worshiping something the way that many Christians, for example, might worship God. It's a different meaning of the word. People weren't necessarily worshiping the goddess in that way of putting the goddess above them. Rather, they were revering the goddess as the bringer of life. They were revering the goddess as the one who birthed them, fed them, watered them, housed them, sheltered them. They were revering the goddess as one with them. And that's a very big difference in how we use the term worship or revere. That's why I like to use the word revere, because it doesn't have those same connotations of, say, church worship, for example. We're not putting anyone above us or even outside of us, because we connect to the goddess within our own heart, within our own body. That is actually the number one way to connect with the goddess, is through the body heart, not through the mind. That's an intellectual understanding. But the mind, our consciousness, creates our capacity to tune into the body and to witness and observe and communicate, to receive these other energies. And that's why it's impossible to be in the divine feminine without being in the divine masculine. You can't have one without the other. And so if you're in what a lot of people are in, patterns of blaming the masculine, anger at men, all of which has to be healed and purified as you come into your feminine power, and you're denying the masculine, then you're denying the feminine. The problem is that we've had this wounded masculine, we've had this toxic masculine on this planet, and the toxic or the wounded masculine is not necessarily, how to say this, revering or honoring their own divinity, they too have been putting it outside of themselves. And that leads to inner emptiness, that leads to taking, that leads to power over, it leads to hierarchical systems, and it leads to corruption. It leads to many, many, many things. When you are accessing the soul, the divine truth within you, you're accessing your own inner power, you're accessing your own divinity, then you have no reason to have power over another, because you know your own true power never needs power over another. And feminine power is inner power that is accessed, inner power that is claimed, inner power that is felt. Now, I associate the feminine with the soul because from ancient myths, that's what it's always been connected to. Take Inanna, for example. Have you heard of Inanna? If not, I will introduce you to her. Inanna, an ancient swimmer, was known as the Queen of Heaven and Earth. Now, this is important. Queen of Heaven and Earth. Not heaven, not earth. Both. Because the goddess represented, ultimately, this reunion of the two. Now, we've been told we're either in heaven or we're in earth, and we're not in both. And that's what I call separation consciousness, which we're here to heal, which is what a lot of my book is about, which hopefully will be coming out in the next few years. I'm working now. Now, Inanna's journey is she wanted to have a queenly throne, her queen bed. She wanted a king, lover. And then after she received all of these things, she realized, oh, there's more. So she put her ear to the ground below, and she heard a deep calling, as if you hear a deep soul calling from within. It's the same thing, metaphorically. You hear deep soul calling. You have a deep soul desire. You don't know why. You don't know why it's there. It's something new, but you trust it, you hear it, you honor it, you act on it. So she has her ear to the ground below, as in the cave of your own body, as in the earth, and she hears this call. And so she goes on a journey into the underworld. Now, in Sumer, the underworld was called Kur, K-U-R. Maybe I'm mispronouncing that. And the underworld has always been known as a place of darkness, a place of death, a place where you meet the pieces and parts of yourself that you've denied. And in order to become queen in the world, Inanna had to deny, she thought, the wild, uninhabited aspects of herself. She had to deny the pieces and parts of her that weren't necessarily, quote, civilized. And she goes into the underworld. Before she does, she gets all dressed up. She has her fancy robe and her staff and her lapis lazuli and beads. She goes down into the underworld. She knocks on the first door. And the chief gatekeeper comes up to her and says, okay, yes, you want to come into the underworld. Everyone's allowed to enter the underworld and leave. Why are you here? And she doesn't know how to give a response to this question because she doesn't really know why she's there. She just feels this deep soul calling that can't really be explained. Sound familiar? And so he says, you have to give up this precious item of yours in order to come into the underworld. And she protests, but he says, no, there's no protesting here. So she gives it up. The next gate, same thing. The next gate, same thing. 7 gates. She gives up everything that she'd adorned herself with. She gives up the robe and the final gate. And she walks into the underworld naked and humbled and bowed low. And right before her, naked, humbled, and bowed low. What does that represent? Naked, humbled, and bowed low. She's naked, meaning she has nothing outside of herself to protect herself with. She has nothing outside of herself to identify with. She is purely her, exposed and vulnerable. And Ereshkigal, her sister self, the queen of the underworld, takes a look at her and she stands up and she points the finger and she condemns her to death. And they hang her on the hook for 3 days and 3 nights. Sounds familiar. The very first person to go to the underworld was an ancient Sumer, well before the myth of Jesus going to die for 3 days and 3 nights. Because this is an ancient myth that has been in Sumerian and Egyptian cultures way before it was included into Christianity. And so she's in the darkness. She's on this hook. She's lifeless 3 days and 3 nights. Luckily, she had prepared her faithful servant, Melchizedek. If you don't see me in 3 days, 3 nights, then please beat the drums and go to my fathers and ask for it. And so her faithful servant does this. She beats the drum, she's grieving, she's wailing, she's calling out for Inanna. She goes to the fathers of Inanna. Now, Inanna had different fathers because she had the sun god, she had Enki, the god of wisdom, the waters. She was in this pantheon of gods and goddesses that existed in ancient. The first two, quote, fathers of Inanna, basically say, she did what she asked for. She went, she wanted to go there, let her suffer the consequences. No compassion, no empathy, no thought of her, just let her deal with it on her own. Sounds familiar? You got what you asked for. And then Melchizedek goes to Enki, the god of water, the god of wisdom. He says, oh, poor Inanna. Now, he too had been to the underworld, which meant he had a lot more wisdom. Because when you go to the underworld, again, you're facing these pieces and parts of self that are not true. These pieces and places in which you've separated from self to create inner union, which is union with your soul, your divinity. And so he was very wise as a result of his journey. And so he creates these beings out of the dirt underneath his pinky fingernail, the Krungara and the Galatur, and he gives them very specific instructions. So they disguise themselves as flies. They fly into the underworld unnoticed, and they see the corpse of Inanna hanging. And then next to her, they see Irishkigal, the queen of the underworld, moaning in pain. And she says, oh, my liver. And they say, oh, my liver. Oh, my stomach. They say, oh, my stomach. Oh, my head. They say, oh, my head. And then she looks at them and she says, who are you? Who gives me this great gift? What can I do for you? What can I offer you for this gift that you were giving me? This gift that they were giving her was the gift of seeing, the gift of hearing her, the gift of honoring her experience, not trying to change it or make it different or better. The gift of seeing her as she was. She says, I can give you this, I can give you this, I can give you this. And they say, no, there's only one thing that we want. One thing. We want the corpse of Inanna. She says, okay, so we're giving you the corpse of Inanna. So they sprinkled the water of life and the food of life on the head of Inanna, who returns to life. Yeah, she's still in the underworld. No one is allowed to enter the underworld without having a replacement. And so the demons of the underworld follow her. She comes up and out, resurrects into new life. New life, the art of resurrection, ancient mystery. The resurrection into her true self, the resurrection into her whole self, because these pieces and parts that have been seen, that have been heard, that have been met with empathy, are now making her whole. There's no division anymore. There's no separation anymore. And she comes out, and her faithful servant Melchizedek comes up, and she bows at her feet, and she's weeping in gratitude for her return. And the demons want to take her, and she says, no. Don't take her. She's been so faithful to me. She has beat the drum for me. She has helped me. And then they go to her first son. He bows at her feet. Oh, I missed you, mother. I've been thinking of you. Where are you? I've missed you. The demons go, no. Second son, same thing. No, 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 can't take him. No, no, no. And then they arrive on Earth, where her king lover Dumuzi is sitting on his throne, thinking he can rule all alone without a queen by his side. Ah, what pity for him, because she takes a look at him, and he doesn't even honor her presence. He doesn't even turn around and greet her. And she points the finger, him, take him, she says to the demons, and the demons run after Dumuzi. They run after him, and he tries to escape but avoids them, turning into a gazelle and turning into a snake, and eventually they catch him and they take him into the underworld. Because if she is to be in relationship with him, he too has to face his own inner demons. He too has to face his own unconscious. For how else could they rule as equals side by side, man and woman? How else could they reign as king and queen? Until he too has done his inner work, until he too has come into inner union. And so this story holds many codes, which I explore in my writing, which I continue to explore when people work with me in these containers that I offer. These many codes that I hope are being activated in you in some way, shape, or form as you listen. The power of the feminine, the power of wholeness, the power of union, which is achieved through the power of love, which is achieved through the power of heart. And the heart is in the body. The heart is in the now. The heart is in the present. You cannot access your heart if you are in your head only. You cannot access your heart if you're not in your body. You cannot access your heart if the demons are stopping you. The inner demons, the inner thoughts, the inner beliefs, the inner forms of protection and defense, the inner wounds that have kept you from your own truth. And they have to be seen, and they have to be faced, and they have to be met with empathy. They have to be met and acknowledged, and they have to be transformed into new life as you come into new life. And the path of feminine power is the path of embodiment. It's not an intellectual understanding. It's you living and breathing and experiencing this transformation of your own soul's truth in yourself. And as you do this, you bring more and more of your own soul's light into your body. You live more and more of your soul's truth into the world. You grid more and more of this light onto the earth plane. You shift the collective consciousness by shifting your own consciousness. You wonder what you're supposed to be doing in the world. Your mission, your purpose comes from you being in inner union with you. You wonder how you're supposed to help the world if you see the chaos around you or the destruction around you. You shift your consciousness. You align to your soul's truth. You trust what your soul is asking you to do, even when it doesn't make sense, even when the world would tell you no, even when everybody else thinks you're crazy. You wonder what you're supposed to do when you think things are falling apart. You hold the light. You become the light worker. You become the anchor of light. Yes, for those around you as well. And you do this by activating your divine vision. You do this by activating your wisdom centers in your body, in your energy field. You can't come into the body fully without learning how to work with the energy of your body, which is why I teach people how to work with the energy of your body, because that is the key. That is the key. We are not purely physical beings. And if you operate as a purely physical being, you're operating in a very different way than if you operate as a divine being having a human experience. Not to deny or separate from your humanity, quite the opposite. Your humanity is one with your divinity, and they are bridged. You are both. This is the path of feminine power. And I could tell you many more myths about feminine power, many more stories. Myths, by the way, are not just mere stories. Myths hold great keys and wisdom and have been passed down for millennia for a reason. Religion as we know it is a bunch of myths put together, woven together. There's no reason we should give that any more credence than we do the myths of ancient history. And so when we're talking about this shift into feminine power and why it matters, it's because feminine power is not power over. Feminine power does not tell another what to do. Feminine power is not rooted in separation. Feminine power is rooted in connection. Connection with yourself, your true self, your divine self. Feminine power is rooted in connection with your body and its infinite wisdom. Feminine power is rooted in love, your heart opening, releasing the boundaries, releasing the false boundaries and protection, I should say. Because your heart is a portal to the divine, a portal to the cosmos. Your heart is developing connection with all that is. All that is divine. Feminine power is connection with others. Feminine power is connection with the earth. Feminine power is connection with all of life. That's what activates your life force energy, your sexual energy. The goddess since ancient times has always been equated with love, life, and sex. And sometimes war as well. Love, life, and sex. Because the more you activate the power of love, the more your life force energy activates, which also allows for true sexuality. Sexuality has nothing to do with the way most people view it in this world. It's not an act. It's a way of being in the world. More on that in the podcast episodes. Though I have one episode already. I'm trying to remember to put a link below in the show notes that you can listen to on your own sexual energy. And I have a free gift to activate more of your sexual energy. It's a womb meditation. So you can go to thepathtosovereignty.com. I'll put the link below for that as well. And while I was leading the Divine Feminine Power initiation in Greece, I felt the call, that ear to the ground below, to bring together women's power. We're devoted to anchoring your life. We're devoted to embodying to bringing together and to create a grid, a network. And so I'm starting a new online Temple of Divine Feminine in November. We'll begin with our first live call. I'll have live calls once a month on American, European, or UK time zones. You can join live, or of course you can watch the recording if you're not in those time zones. We'll have bi-weekly teachings on everything related to feminine power, which includes magnetism, radiance, sacred embodiment, sexuality, sovereignty, wealth codes, boundaries, truth speaking, so much more within the first year. And an embodiment practice each month, as well as group chat. So you can receive support, ask questions, post your revelations, your aha moments, while you're held in a very deep cauldron of transformation, which you're seen and heard and witnessed as you expand and rise. This is a frequency shift. This is an embodiment shift as you show up in the world differently. You show up in your relationships differently. And you support the collective to make the shifts that we're in the middle of. If that interests you, it's a very low investment for the amount of transformation that you will receive. You can go to thepathtosovereignty.com and click on Temple of Divine Feminine Power, or you can click the link below. And I would love to see you in there. If you have any questions, let me know. There are partial scholarships available as well if finances are an issue for you. And remember, no matter what, whether you do the free meditation to activate your sexual energy, whether you listen to this podcast over and over and start making notes about the path that you want to go on, whether you join us in the online Temple of Divine Feminine Power, whether you want to work with me one-on-one or attend next year in Greece, our retreat, we're going to be doing another one in 2026. I hope that you remember that the more you connect with this inner self, this true self, the more everything in your life begins to shift, because transformation occurs from the inside out. And it becomes something else, become more and more of who you truly are. But you have to release what you're not in order to step into who you are. And that's the path of soul embodiment, and that's the path of feminine power. Lots of love, and I'll see you next time on the Soul Sovereignty and Sexuality Podcast. Be sure to drop a note